Have things started to change in the US since vaccinations began?
Well, I don't think things have changed. One of the things that we have a messaging issue that people keep asking now that we have vaccines, could we then lighten up on our public health measures? I don't know whether the same situation exists in Australia, but in the United States, there's a lot of COVID fatigue. People are just really tired of being restricted. The one thing we have to remember, and we try very hard, I hope successfully, to get the message across, that until we get the vast majority of the population vaccinated and the level of virus goes down to quite a low level, such that the virus is no longer a serious threat, we must abide by public health measures, wearing a mask uniformly, physical distancing, the usual 6 feet apart. Do not congregate in crowds, particularly indoors, and when you can't avoid that, always wear a mask and wash your hands as often as you possibly can. The reason why we say this is that even though the peak of infections that followed the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year holiday, we went up to a strikingly alarming level of infections where we were getting literally 300,000 or more infections per day, 3,000 to 4,000 deaths per day, and our hospitals were almost being overwhelmed.
Those things that you've just touched on there, the high infection rates, the high death rates in the United States, is America an example of how not to manage a pandemic?
Well, I wouldn't put it so bluntly. But certainly we could have done better. I think anyone that looks at the numbers will tell you that for a country with the wealth that we have, with the capabilities that we have, to have this degree of infection, hospitalization, and death is really unacceptable. But, there were some unfortunate but true reasons why that occurred. We have in our country throughout the entire year, from January of 2020 until literally very recently, an extraordinary degree of divisiveness in my country. And when you have divisiveness where public health matters get a political overtone to that, that is very much interfering with an adequate public health response. Because when you have people who make wearing a mask or not a political statement, that is very bad. Because when you have an outbreak, like we all have, not only in the United States, but throughout the world, we've all got to pull together in a consistent way with the well-proven public health measures.
We've seen in the US politics at play. COVID-19 has become politicised over there, and as you say, there's been a severe divisiveness over there. Are you starting to claw back some of those people who perhaps, weren't in line with the public health message?
Well, I hope so. What we're getting that I believe will ultimately lead to turning around a bit. I don't think we're going to win everyone over. But one of the things that is coming out of Washington now is a very consistent message from President Biden. He put together a rather comprehensive strategy to address COVID-19 and pandemic preparedness, a document that's over 100 pages that's accessible online in the White House's website. And he verbalizes both publicly and privately. I mean, I was literally with him about 2 hours ago in the Oval Office, and he said the same thing he's been saying consistently, that we need to go by the science, that the pure science and data and evidence is going to dictate what our policy is. And he means that. And I hope that because of that, we'll see a more consistent response.
From being consistently undermined in the past administration by the past president, how's your relationship now with the new president? How have things changed?
Well, I knew President Biden pretty well when he was vice president for 8 years under President Obama. So it was more of the continuation of a relationship that's gone on for, at least a decade or more. I knew a little bit about him and interacted with him when he was a senator, but I really got to know him when he was vice president. So the relationship is a very good relationship in the sense of encouraging transparency and encouraging sticking to the facts and the data.
You said in the past, though, that your relationship with President Trump was good. How does your relationship with President Biden compare?
Well, it's interesting and I would think a little bit complicated, and I would say complex. My personal relationship with President Trump was pretty good, actually. We got along well when we were with each other. But the conflict occurred when I had to speak out against some of the things that were said because they were a bit incompatible with what I knew as a scientist. So that led to some tension. But my personal relationship with him was not bad at all.
Do you feel now that you're all on the same team?
Very much so. I mean, the spirit in the White House is really one of teamwork.
How do you undo what President Trump did?
Well, I think that's going to be pretty straightforward. Just go out and speak the truth and make sure that statements and policies and recommendations are based on facts.
Is it working so far?
Thus far, I'm pleased with how things are going. I mean, there is a consistency in what we're doing. Everyone is pulling together. We still have a significant challenge in our country. We still have a serious outbreak that even though it's starting to turn around, it still has a considerable number of people every day are getting infected, even though it's turning around. So we have a lot of work to do.
Hello, I'm Sarah Abo. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.